Jumping into episode 7 of Sabikui Bisco, I think I've come to accept that this is just how it's gonna be. That the animation of this series is probably just gonna be this. It's not bad, but at the same time, I do get a little frustrated in the fact that it seems like whenever there's action, you know it's happening because you see kind of the end result, but you never see the actual action. So it's fine. Like I said, I think this is really being kept up by, style, world, the weirdness of the world itself, and also some story in there as well. The rest of the episode, pretty solid. I think especially the last scene and a really funny scene in the middle, really solid episode, just kind of opening it up with having this whole ordeal where, yes, Pau is there and Bisco's there, and they're having that whole misunderstanding thing of, he followed me, no, you're lying, oh no, you manipulated him, so obviously my younger brother can't do his own decisions. But it was funny because I really do I like that Bisco's not like a normal person, like, wait, no, that's not how it is. No, he literally throws it back at her. Well, I assume that you would be his mother because you look so old, which we find out later, she doesn't really believe that. But yeah, he's a snot. He's an absolute snot, and I love it. So that works out for me. Yeah, this is when we get into the barely visible fight with the big gigantic worm with fingers and legs all over it. And I honestly thought we were going to get the whole both of them stuck inside the belly scenario and having some weird thing where they're trying to walk out of it or something. But no, they just straight up kill the thing. This is where we get into Milo's theory on what the Rust Eater is. And this is where, again, it gets a little bit vague as to how they come to this conclusion, but essentially Bisco gets one of these mushrooms and is like, oh, no, that's not the Rust Eater. Kind of implies that he knows it by taste, so that implies that he's had a Rust. I don't know what that, again, that was the vague part, one of the vague parts of it. But yeah, after Milo picks it up and realizes there's blood on it, it's glowing, that it seems like they're implying that all of the mushroom keepers are actually people that are of a certain blood. So it's not that you go, oh, I'm going to become a mushroom keeper going forward. It is literally mushroom keepers are of a bloodline or maybe a group of people that were somewhere specific when this whole disaster happened. And so they have this special type of blood within themselves. And it is, like I said, it's implying that the blood of the mushroom keepers mixed with any mushroom. Again, that was the part that I'm not sure exactly what they were implying there. Or if it has to be the mushroom from the back of this particular worm and then apply the blood and it becomes it. Or again, if it's implying that all mushroom keepers can bleed on mushrooms to make the Rust Eater. And again, this is kind of supported by the fact that what was the legend about the Rust Eater that Jabi said? There was this grave of this mushroom keeper and a Rust Eater grew next to it, which would imply the blood's in the soil and the mushroom ate it and then it becomes a Rust Eater. So again, I think that's kind of what I'm gathering in this whole situation. But yeah, from this, Milo ends up making the cure, which we're not really sure yet. Only had enough to make perfectly 2 bottles, even though they need technically 3 at this point. But that's fine. Technically, at that point, his whole goal was Pau and Jabi. He wasn't to mass manufacture a whole bunch of them. But yeah, obviously right here, Pau's having a conflict because she just got done hearing a story from these people that we still at this point don't even know if it was true. This story about, while she's thinking that mushroom keepers are actually scientific saviors, she's still in conflict because while here we're seeing that there's a Rust Eater cure, over here she knows that some mushroom keepers are going out there and just experimenting on people. Which then goes back to that whole thing of like, why do people not understand that not everybody within a group has to be perfect, pure people? Pau shouldn't be in conflict because over here this guy did terrible things and over here they possibly have the cure. It's whatever, it's fine. We like to blanket groups. That makes things more entertaining, I guess. But yeah, this is when, if it wasn't enough that Pau somehow magically found Bisco and Milo, which I was kind of like, that's fine. She was driving by and seen them and so she knew it was them. No. Kurokawa magically appears. And he's in a blimp, and he shows up at the last minute to pick up this corpse and run off with it. But not before Bisco attacks him, and he has some kind of antibodies bacterial treatment on the thing, so the mushrooms don't really work. And then ends up shooting Bisco with his little. He just goes boop boop. He knew Bisco was gonna be right there, so he can perfectly. That was a lot of very convenient moments in this episode, but that's fine because that was my whole thing. I was curious how Kurokawa was going to kind of be stuck in the picture. And my assumption there was that they were going to do something like drug Jabi or something like that in order to figure out something. or that he was going to follow Pau. But we really haven't got that. While Pau was like, I don't know, some towns away, Kurokawa was still in the town and capturing Jabi. So how did you go from over here capturing Jabi to magically, oh yeah, by the way, I was following Pau. Or some indication that, I don't know, somebody was following Pau that was off the camera. That's the only assumption I have, is that somebody within Kurokawa's team was following. Now, a theory popped in my head at some point, thinking, well, maybe Chururu maybe ratted them out. Maybe despite the fact of getting this, parasite removed from her stomach, maybe they captured her at some point and asked her information, and she's like, well, they don't mean anything to me, so I'll just rat them out. Yeah, they're going down that tunnel. But I don't know. Maybe they were with each other all the way to that tunnel for a while, and I don't really see her necessarily doing that at any point. But again, because she's not necessarily under his control anymore. She doesn't have this maggot or this worm thing inside of her stomach. But either way, I'm still happy to see Kurokawa, because he's about the only real threat that we have at this point, and at the same time, Kendra Suda. But the weird thing that comes after this is that obviously he gets, we have Bisco get shot, and they have this little scene where, Pau's saying goodbye because she's going to take this medicine back to Jabi, and Pau ends up giving Bisco hers because he's been shot by a rusted bullet, and so he's going to need it, and she wants him to protect Milo. So it was a little bit of a self-sacrifice there, but at the same time, a really cute, where did this come from? Where did this come from? Pau literally gets real forward with Bisco. She's like, the first time he fought, you said that was cute with my rust. And now that I got a closer look at you, you're kind of cute too, or something like that. And just completely throws Bisco off. And I'm like, I guess I could see the Pau Bisco ship, but really wasn't ready for that one. So now we have Pau, Bisco, and Chiruru Milo, apparently. That's the two ships. But yeah, Pau goes back to the nearby base, and that's where she ends up getting captured by Kurokawa because he has Jabi as a hostage. Now, again, this is the part where it's like, what? What? Okay, so Kurokawa floats this huge blimp that's covered in this antibacterial stuff. He shoots down, picks up this big worm, and then says peace out. And then later uses Jabi as a hostage to get Pau, and it's like, well, why wouldn't you just attack over here? Unless he was afraid because despite the, the spray they put on the thing, that Bisco could still shoot him down. I can see that. Maybe he wants to kind of ground the situation, and that was the best way to do it, was with the hostage. But again, technically right there, he could have said, hey, I have Jabi, don't shoot at the blimp. I don't know. It seemed like a weird transition here. But I guess it's just to kind of force Bisco to have to take care of himself because, yeah, now we have Milo, and he's taking care of Bisco, who obviously wants to do whatever he wants to do. But the next scene I both liked and was irked by something. It jumps to the scene where Milo ends up going back into the room, and he ends up seeing this broadcast by Kurokawa. The broadcast says something like, this is out to, Bisco and Milo. And Milo's obviously bothered by this. And then it cuts to Bisco coming back, and he's just whistling along and cooking something. And then suddenly Bisco realizes, what's going on? Like, you have this face on that's not really matching your mood. And he obviously realizes that there's a sleep mushroom poison within the food. And I'm like, what? like why is he poisoning him? Is he gonna turn him in? I guess they were trying to fake out that Milo was going to make him go to sleep so he can turn him in. But that's what the whole thing implied. Like, it wasn't really like they were going, oh, well, you think he's doing this, but actually he's doing this. It just felt like, until like way later, oh, okay, so Milo does want to take care of him? It seemed really weirdly portrayed because I was like, okay, so I'm gonna have to hate Milo now. Like, I was literally like, what the hell, Milo? Like, this is his character? Now, I'm fine with that. Like, if the story goes that direction, that Milo is willing to essentially take and drug somebody just to save his sister, like he's that selfish, perfectly fine with it. I'm not gonna be happy about him, but I'm perfectly fine with a story doing that. I'm fine with a character being selfish and making a mistake, but don't fake it out and make me go, wait, so are you faking me out? And then it doesn't stop there, because the moment that Bisco realized that, he's like, oh yeah, it's gotta be your sister. Okay, she's at the base, right? I'll go get her. Don't worry about it. And then Milo goes out there and says, you literally can't do that. I'm not going to allow you to do that. Put your life at risk. You've already done so much for me. I don't want that to happen. You're my friend. While Bisco's like, my life doesn't matter. If I die, it's fine. People need you. They don't need me. And that's when Milo's like, no, I need you to survive. You are a friend of mine. I'm not going to allow that to happen. And his way to try to get Bisco to stop is to point a bow and arrow at him. Like what are you going to shoot? if you're a doctor and you want to save his life, what are you going to shoot? You going to shoot him in the leg and hit an artery and kill him? Like, where are you going to shoot? It's like this whole idea that I want to save you by stopping you, by harming you, and it could possibly kill you. It was a funny moment in my head. Like, okay, there's the whole I don't want this to happen, but I'll harm you in order to make it happen kind of moments, which was great. But it was a cute scene. Like I said earlier, this scene was really great. I think that they did really well, at least the part where Milo's saying, I want you to survive, and Bisco, again, is really kind of hitting on this idea that my life doesn't matter, and Milo's saying that's not true, basically. And I think that this scene right here was like, it reminded me that I really like this show. Like, this show can do a really good job. I think at this point, though, at episode 7, what I've come to the conclusion about of this series is that I love the world. It's so weird. I love it. It's got great style, and it's got great just atmosphere. Like, atmosphere, characters, world itself, I like it all. It's just, I don't think Oz is pulling it off in the action department. Like, the action is its weakest link because the studio just doesn't really show you much. So I think later on, when I finally get my final, unless something changes, I think my final conclusion on the show is going to be, it's a great world and characters, just it's not much in the animation department, and it seems like it should have the animation there when it needs the animation there. And yeah, it wraps up with Milo leaving Bisco behind and basically saying that he's going to go save everybody. Don't worry, I'll handle it. Don't move, kind of thing, as he's asleep. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. It's kind of one of those troubling things is where I think that Milo's progression as a fighter has been going a little bit too fast. But I mean, that's fine. This is his moment of not relying on Bisco to risk his life in order to gain something. And so this is a turning point for Milo as a character, and I'll be interested to see how that lays out. I'm kind of assuming it's going to be one of those things where Milo puts up a decent fight using some sort of strategy, and then he's going to get caught and Bisco's going to have to come save him at the last minute. Or maybe, again, Chiduru shows up. Maybe he'll have Chiduru come in there and help out her panda. But yeah, we'll see. I think Kurokawa so far has been, despite the fact that it's like, why is he there kind of thought process. Again, Kenjiro Tsuda is a huge part of it. He seems like he's somebody that you don't really want to mess with. It seems like he doesn't want anybody to have... It kind of confirmed for us that Kurokawa just literally doesn't want anybody to have the Rust Eater. He knows it exists. He's probably he probably used to be a mushroom keeper. Who knows? There's got to be a reason why he has the knowledge that he has of the Rust Eater, and it could be that he just knows it because he used to be one. And so he just wants to take this big worm and run off with it, which again, I guess technically answers my question earlier that I guess it has to be a certain type of mushroom and then put the blood on it, because otherwise why would he steal the worm? But again, I think that he is probably a mushroom keeper, and his whole, like he says, his whole thing is that he doesn't want the government to know that it exists, because then Bisco and Milo and Pau can use that to essentially gain from the government, and he doesn't want that. He wants to be the one at the top. So we'll see if they get into something maybe a little more complex with Kurokawa in the next episode, as obviously Milo's going to confront him, but I'm looking forward to that. We're already 7 episodes in. It kind of scares me because I'm kind of curious exactly how they can get to a solid punchline with this particular season. But yeah, that's my thoughts on episode 7 of Sabikui Bisco. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like down below, comment, let me know what's thought of the episode. Subscribe if you haven't already, share the video if you can, support us on Patreon, or throw a tips link in the description below. We definitely appreciate everybody that does. And also there's a link to our Discord. If you love anime and you want to talk about it, definitely join us there, and y'all take care.